Alex Tate is in the studio. Alex, you may remember, is a co-founder of Reform Political Advertising, and the man responsible really for my penny drop moment when it was explained to me that there are more regulations governing the advertising of, for example, washing powder or crisps than there are political advertising. And you've been on a bit of a quest, Alex, but a fruitful one, I think it's fair to say. Last time I heard your voice, you were on the phone to Sadiq Khan asking him before the last mayoral election if he would sign up to your project, your pledge. You did hear back from him, I think.
That's right, yeah, he signed up to it.
And Neil Kinnock recently, former Labour leader, has come out and said that the work you do is important and fully supported by him.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, we had, thanks for all your help around that. We had 6 London mayor candidates that supported it, including the Lib Dems and Greens as well.
Which one didn't?
We didn't hear back from Susan Hall, but we tried.
Maybe someone had pinched the letter that you sent her. Her pocket had been picked once again. Let's look at some of the adverts that you've picked up on this campaign. And I should say, before anyone starts panicking, that there are we've got examples from 4 parties in front of us. Just run through the kind of thing that you want to bring an end to.
Yeah, and I think it's worth. It is just. We just think it is ridiculous that there isn't any regulation for misleadingness in advertising. And you mentioned about washing powder having various rules you've got to abide by. But it isn't washing powder. For election ads, it's the most important form of advertising, obviously. And we think, actually, I'll talk through these examples, but we think this election period has been probably the worst we've seen, actually, over the last couple of years. There's a low cost to entry. The spending limits have gone up, and of course there are no rules to constrain them. And we've seen examples across the parties. So I could start off with probably a well-known one to your listeners. The Conservatives have obviously had as a theme of their campaign Labour's tax rise and a claim around £2,000 tax increase. The consensus has been, and our friends at Full Fact have sort of agree with us, that it's just not clear that that's over multiple years as opposed to a 1-year period. But that's been quite a central theme.
So you think deliberately designed to make people think it's £2,000 every year?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah. And actually, I got a leaflet through my letterbox that presumably is going around a lot of London and perhaps other parts of the UK from the Conservatives mentioning that Sadiq Khan's going to introduce a nationwide ULEZ zone.
Keir Starmer.
Keir Starmer, which doesn't have any basis in fact. I think there's been some discussion around clean air zones in some strategy paper, but there's no basis to that. But it's not just the Conservatives. We've seen it across different parties. Labour actually have got an ad that's had quite a bit of commentary as well. So they had a claim that over the course of the next Parliament, your mortgage could go up £4,800, and it doesn't have any substantiation on it. And actually, a lot of the consensus around that is that it's based on a lot of assumptions and not very robust and not substantiated. And then, of course, I suppose just to make it quite even-handed across the parties, there's one I sent you, actually, and I can put it on our Twitter feed later if people want to have a look at it. There's Liberal Democrats have obviously got quite a history. They've taken a bit of a different angle this campaign with a lot of the stunts they've been doing.
We may do that in the next hour of the programme, whether or not Ed Davies' sort of tribute act to It's a Knockout. It's as if he's doing a different round of It's a Knockout every day is successful or unsuccessful politics. But you're right, they've certainly been doing things differently, although not perhaps in the arena of advertising.
But there's still a lot of the bar charts that have been quite a historic staple they've been quite well known for. And a lot of misleading bar charts from several parties, but one I sent you that just literally, I think, was, according to the Facebook ad library, served across the UK and didn't have any labelling on it at all. Had it just below had them just below the
who can win in your area. That one, making it look like the Liberal Democrats were the closest.
That's right.
Without any constituency-specific detail or anything at all.
Yeah, just one example of numerous ones we found.
Yes. And reform being economical with the truth about immigration.
Yes, so there's our future is at stake with the title goes now. Our future is at stake with 40 million new arrivals in 12 years, which is an incorrect use of the ONS data.
Conscious or unconscious, I suppose we'd have to wait for someone to ask. Well, if you asked Mr. Farage, he'd claim that it had nothing to do with him, I presume. Give me an idea of what the glorious future looks like under your glorious rule.
Well, so we've been on a bit of a journey,
yes.
I think, of dismantling the arguments against regulation. So you talked about the code, and this code that we launched on your show, actually, earlier in the year around the mayoral elections, was to get people to sign up and commit to be accurate in their election ads. Whilst we've got a lot of momentum around that, we wanted to also show how it's practical
yes.
and actually how you could deploy that and use it in an election period. So we've set up an election ad review panel. We piloted this concept in 2022 to demonstrate actually that election advertising can be regulated in a UK election. There aren't really, when you go through all of this, there aren't really arguments against regulation. One of the things of fact-based claims, one of the things we hear sometimes is, could it work in a general election?
Yeah.
Isn't it too fast-paced? How would that possibly work? So we tried to put that to bed by this panel. It's been chaired by David Putnam, who, when he was in the House of Lords, actually chaired the Democracy and Digital Technology Committee that recommended electoral ad regulation that we gave evidence to. And we've had 7 people from inside and outside the ad industry showing how it can practically work. So we're sourcing ads that are potentially misleading, evidence it, and then actually in a very quick turnaround time, up to 24 hours, we get a judgment back from the panel on if it's misleading or not. And we're not pretending to be a regulator.
No.
We're just showing.
It could almost be advisors, I suppose. So if I'm leader of a major political party, I get to decide whether or not to sign up to this. And the more members of the public are aware of it, the more pressure is exerted upon the political leaders, party machines, to sign up, because the alternative would be, why don't you want to sign up to something that just requires you to tell basic truths?
Well, the next step is obviously, we've demonstrated that it can work, and it's not just us in the UK. There's other.
The mayoral election has become a fairly important sort of advert for you, in a way, hasn't it?
In what sense?
Well, that it is possible for senior politicians to sign up to this and to abide by the code.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's shown it to be very, very practical. And actually, we've also done actually last week some research with Opinion that shows, I think, like if you're a politician, it's just common sense. It's just an intelligent thing to do. So we've always, I think, made the argument, I suppose, that it's good for voters. Okay, and our research this time round again shows 76% of the UK population would agree that electoral ads should be factually accurate. Only 4% would oppose
I'd love to meet the people who don't.
Well, it's only 4%.
Is it?
It's
and
only
then you've
4%.
got some don't knows as well in the mix as
exactly.
well. 4% don't want factually accurate electoral ads.
So they say in the survey.
Yeah.
But 68%, to give you a couple more stats, 68% either don't know that it's regulated or think that it is regulated.
Yes, of course. I did, I think. I just presumed it was until someone explained to me, I think before you did, just how bad it was, but you crystallised it. Speaking of you, Alex Tate, just remind us why you took on this mission, why you chose to start and continue this fight.
Just because it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, we're from an advertising and marketing background, and there's no reason why this should not happen. We've got to a point, really, as I was saying, by trying to dismantle all the arguments against it and showing how practical it is, that it can work. But it's really, it distorts democracy. We think we've got examples of it swinging local elections, and obviously distorts sort of national elections too. And someone's got to do it, actually, to be honest. There weren't too many people putting up their hands to take it forward.
It's an act of public service. You'll probably think that's pompous, or you think
I don't want to sound pompous.
No, well, you don't. I'm calling it an act of public service.
But I think,
motivated by principle.
I think so. I think, there's a very small group of us involved in this, and we're all passionately driven, really. We're all, we rely on unpaid volunteers and operate really on a shoestring budget. But everyone's just determined to show how it can work
and making progress, which isn't always the case with campaigns born of principle and integrity. How can people find out more about what you do and possibly even get involved and have a proper look at the code as well.
Yeah, so we're doing, so if they follow Clear Politics on Twitter or X, Clear Politics with a 5 as the last S, that's our Twitter handle, so it's Clear Politics with a 5 as the last S. We're going to be publishing our review and the findings of the panel over the next few days in the run up to the election. And if the next phase really for our campaign is looking at resourcing it properly, to be honest. So if people go onto our website, reformpoliticaladvertising.org, and they want to support us, if anyone wants to donate to our rather cash-strapped cause, we're keen to sort of move it up a gear. Now we've proved that it can all work. We've proved that it's got a lot of support politically. We just need to ensure that we're sort of engaging with the right stakeholders and trying
that's my final question is what not, because unfortunately I can't arrange a phone in with every political leader and get you on to put it to them, although we could probably help a little bit moving forward. What kind of responses have you had from parties at national level so far?
We've had some very positive
because if one goes they might all go.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it becomes a campaigning tool. We've signed up to a pledge not to fib in off adverts. Why haven't you?
Yes, quite. Yeah.
So you're optimistic by the time of the next general election? Will your work be done?
It's not like this hasn't been a short project.
No, clearly.
But we're determined to take it on to the next level. The momentum, actually, you've been incredibly helpful, actually, I've got to say, this year, at giving some oxygen to this whole campaign as well.
It's not just me, it's my listeners as well. I mean, how can anybody be apart from that mysterious 4%, how can anybody be against the idea of making political parties tell the truth in their adverts?
Yeah. It feels like we're at a point and we're at a junction where when all these parties are talking about needing to clean up politics, it's like a central agenda and central plank.
Well, you're handing them a broom, Alex Tate.
Indeed.
Aren't you? They're making all the speeches about the importance of cleaning up politics, and up pops Reform Political Advertising to hand them a dustpan and brush.
And part of our research also showed that we compared how much you trust ads across different sectors, and of course, election ads are the least trusted.
Yes.
As that disconnect,
that's bad for all of us. It's bad for democracy.
The disconnect between politician and the voter because of distrust is just a key thing that obviously politicians are keen on addressing, and this is just part of the low-hanging fruit, really, to try to take some solid actions at trying to take some steps to rebuild it. I think it was 56% of people in our research said they'd trust ads more if it was regulated by someone like the ASA.
Interesting.
Which is a sort of positive, rather than it being something that is only important to voters. This should be important to politicians as well.
Indeed it should. Carry on. More power to your elbow. Reformpoliticaladvertising.org is the website, and as Alex mentioned, Clear Politics is the Twitter address, where the final S is actually the figure 5, so Clear Politic 5 if you prefer. I will retweet something from that account shortly so that it's easy for you to find if you follow me. Alex Tate, co-founder of Reform Political Advertising. Always good to see you.